end this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now, so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else. Right, just tell us the truth so we can have an honest debate.
This is my video update from Athens, Greece on this Thursday morning, November the 9th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the GOP debates that took place yesterday evening in the United States. And how about Vivek Ramaswamy? How about Vivek Ramaswamy? He went nuclear on the other GOP candidates. Trump, of course, was not at these debates because Trump has something like a 600-point lead on all the other GOP presidential hopefuls. But boy, was Vivek on fire. He called Zelensky a Nazi comedian in cargo pants. It celebrated a Nazi in its rank. The comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. Oh boy. He called Nikki Haley Dick Cheney in 3-inch high heels, something like that. Neocon Nikki. Oh boy. He was on fire. He was absolutely on fire. He asked the moderators, I forgot her name, I think Kristen something, but I forgot her name. The new host of Meet the Press. She was the one that gave Zelensky that interview the other day. He was like, he looked at her and he's like, look, my question to you is, what was going on during the Trump-Russia collusion? I mean, you guys pushed out a fake story, a fake narrative about Trump and Russia, a narrative concocted by Hillary Clinton and Robbie Mook about Trump colluding with the Russians, and the media pushed it. Explain yourself. He's like, explain yourself. And she was just like, you know, she was busted. All she could do was just kind of laugh at the fact that she had been called out. And Vivek said that the real moderators of this debate, because the GOP is such a complete failure, the real moderators should be Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and Joe Rogan. And he's right. He is absolutely right. He's like, would the Democrats go for Greg Gutfeld moderating their debate? Of course not. So why does the GOP have these deep state Democrat puppets moderating our debate? That was pretty much what he was getting at, which is 100%, 1000% spot on. It just highlights the failure of the GOP. It's the uniparty. Vivek knows it's the uniparty. It's the uniparty, and the GOP, they play along with the uniparty rules. They go along with whatever the uniparty says. So the New York Post, the New York Post is actually trying to claim that Nikki Haley won the debate last night, and they had their panel of expert political analysts, and they said that Vivek, he just looked mean and angry, and he stepped over so many red lines by saying the things that he said. And the real winner of the debate was Nikki Haley. Republican debate verdict. Impressive Haley shines. Stupid Vivek self-destructs. That's from the New York Post. Yeah, they want the warmonger candidate to win. Of course they want Nikki Haley to win. Nikki Haley would be super good for the military-industrial complex. I mean, super good. Biden is he's now got the U.S. entangled in 2 wars. Nikki Haley would bump that up to 10. She would bump it up to 10 wars. She she would be so good for the MIC business. The stocks would just explode. So yeah, the stocks would explode for the military industrial complex. Anyway, yeah, the New York Post, they want Nikki Haley to win really, really bad. Tim Scott said the quiet part out loud again. Again, he said that the goal of conflict Ukraine is to degrade the Russian military. And Tim Scott actually said that degrading the Russian military is good for the United States. That's the real goal of Project Ukraine. And he said, with the price of Ukrainian blood. The U.S.'s vital interest in Ukraine is degrading the Russian military with the price of Ukrainian blood. You know, Tim Scott, he blurted it out. He just came out and said it. Yeah, Ukraine, what you mean to us as the United States is that you are going to fight this war, and your men and now your women are going to degrade the Russian military, die for us, for the neocons, for the United States, in order to degrade the Russian military. That's the purpose of Project Ukraine. And Tim Scott just came out and said it. And this is nothing new than what Lindsey Graham has said, and Mitch McConnell, and so many other neocons and deep state uniparty politicians. The goal of Project Ukraine now is not about defeating Russia. It's about degrading Russia, and we're going to use Ukraine in order to do it for as long as it takes and until the last Ukrainian man and woman. And I say woman because I'm going to talk about an article from the New York Times, which talks about how Ukraine is now recruiting women into the army at an increasing rate. Anyway, the comedian, the NAZI comedian in cargo pants. Let's talk about that guy. He was invited to Reuters' next conference. Reuters had a conference, and they call it the next conference. Zelensky invited to the next conference. Yeah, next. Via video link, Zelensky spoke at this conference, the next conference. And Zelensky said the words that everyone that is pulling for Project Ukraine wants to hear. We have a plan. That is what Zelensky said. We have a plan, he said. You know it's over. You know it is 100% over when Zelensky gets in front of an audience, a very desperate Zelensky gets in front of an audience, and he says, we have a plan. Don't lose faith in us. We have a plan. Oh boy. So here's what Zelensky told those in attendance at the Reuters next conference. He said, and I quote, we have a plan. We have very concrete cities, very concrete directions where we go. I can't share all the details, but we have some slow steps forward in the south. Also, we have steps on the east. So Zelensky didn't exactly say what this plan is, but he did promise certain good steps near the Kherson region. And he also said that Ukrainian forces have a plan for next year as well, 2024. But Zelensky said that Ukraine will try to show battlefield results by the end of 2023. Quote, I am sure we'll have success. It's difficult. I don't even think I need to comment on this statement from Zelensky. I think it says it all. We have a plan. We have plan. Now give me money. What is the plan, Mr. President Zelensky? It's a plan. We have a plan. Trust me, we have a plan. No, 60 billion you give? Oh boy, he also said at this event that, now get this one. Zelensky said at this event that the Ukraine military, Ukraine inflicts 5 times the number of casualties as Russia. So Ukraine inflicts 5x casualties on Russia. For every Ukraine casualty, it's 5x that Russia suffers, according to Zelensky. Okay, 5x on Russia. Zelensky. So, what does that mean for Russia if it's 1 for every 5 and Ukraine is running out of weapons, they're running out of soldiers, they're now recruiting women? I mean, the situation must be 5 times worse for Russia, according to Zelensky. But it doesn't seem like Russia is in a panic, nor is Russia recruiting women into the military, nor is Russia in a panic about weapons, ammunition. No panic. As a matter of fact, Putin is doing business. I think he's in Kazakhstan today, making deals, building partnerships. You would think that Russia would be in panic if it's 5x. You would think that if it's 5x, Ukraine would be at the Sea of Azov by now, if it was 5x. But that doesn't seem to be what's going on. And if it's 5x, why is everyone saying it's a stalemate? If for everyone you're taking out their 5, that means you're winning. But everyone is saying you're losing, including your general, Mr. Zelensky. Anyway, who knows? He's saying it is 5x the casualties. That is what Zelensky is saying. And we have a plan. It's 5x and we have a plan. I don't know where this leads me to, but let's see. Let's see where this goes. I have no idea. So Kirby, he was speaking to the media, and they asked him about money to Ukraine, and Kirby said that 96% of the funds allocated to Ukraine have already been spent. The United States has already spent 96% of the funds allocated for all areas of support for Ukraine, including arms supplies. The U.S. is out of money. They need money to go to Project Ukraine, which really just goes to the military-industrial complex. But that's what Kirby told the media. The assistant director for USAID, assistant administrator for USAID, she testified to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee the other day, and she said the last tranche for aid to Ukraine, the last tranche was dispersed at the end of the fiscal year. This jeopardizes, particularly over the coming months, Ukraine's ability to maintain its economic stability while it continues to fight the war. It's urgent. So she's asking for money as well. USAID is asking for money as well. USAID is Samantha Powers, and that's the organization in the U.S. government that conducts regime change and color revolutions and works inside of countries to foment instability and propaganda and stuff like that. That's USAID in a nutshell, in my opinion. And it's run by Samantha Power. Humanitarian wars. That was her shtick. We need to bomb countries for humanitarian reasons. That's Samantha Power, and that's USAID. That's her doctrine. Humanitarian intervention. She invented that. I think she actually even wrote a book about that. We have to destroy countries and kill millions and millions of people because it's the humane thing to do. That's Samantha Power. If you don't laugh, you cry, because the collective West is being run by incompetent Incompetent, crazy psychopaths. That's what it feels like. But anyway, they're out of money as well. And they're starting to talk now about, because they can't get the 60 billion approved to Project Ukraine, they are talking about those Russian assets again. Those Russian assets. And the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee, on Tuesday, they approved a draft law, and they're calling this draft law REPO for Ukrainians Act. The REPO for Ukrainians Act, which would authorize President Bidenopoulos to confiscate frozen Russian assets in American jurisdiction, with the exception of diplomatic property. The Secretary of State would then be able to use the money to fund humanitarian aid and reconstruction efforts in Ukraine. Theft. And they're calling it the REPO for Ukraine Act. The REPO for Ukraine Act. You cannot make this stuff up. I mean, you really cannot make this stuff up. You can't write better tragic comedy than what is playing out right now, especially with regards to Project Ukraine. So they're having trouble unlocking the 60 billion. Kirby is saying we're tapped out. USAID is saying we're tapped out. And Congress is saying, well, how about those frozen assets? Let's get those frozen assets and we can send them over to Zelensky, which means that they get funneled to the military-industrial complex, and 10% for the big guy, and we know the routine, and we'll call it the REPO for Ukrainians Act. So the Kremlin, they warned the United States, don't do it. Peskov, he was speaking to journalists when this draft law actually was passed. Peskov, he warned the United States that this would be illegal and contrary to all possible rules. Peskov added that it would result in serious court and judicial costs for those who would take such decisions and implement them. Peskov also said that Russia's retaliation, if the U.S. decides to steal this money, repo this money, Peskov said, and I quote, Russian retaliation will likely not be tit for tat, but the one that serves our interests in the best way. Noting that the U.S. move would, of course, be contested indefinitely by our country. So it would not be tit for tat. That's a pretty interesting statement from Peskov. The Russians will retaliate in any way they see fit. That is in the best interests of Russia. So Russia won't go stealing U.S. assets. It could do something totally different in retaliation of the United States stealing these frozen assets. The REPO for Ukrainian Act. So the clown world rolls on with Project Ukraine, and we got the news yesterday from Ursula von der Crazy that the EU has approved the opening of accession talks with Ukraine, with Moldova, also Georgia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. 4 new countries are going to begin the process of EU accession. Now, it could take a while for them to complete this process. It could take all the way up to 2030 and perhaps even longer. But there you have it. Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina are going to be entering the European Union. Say goodbye to the European Union. Say goodbye to the European Union. I knew she was going to do this. She had to do this. Ursula had to open the doors, especially to Ukraine, because she's bet everything on Project Ukraine. Her entire political career is anchored in Project Ukraine. So she had no other card to play. And given the fact that Zelensky is in big trouble from the Banderites, from the neocons, from opposition like Arestovich, his fight with Zelensky, his own military, the fact that he is losing this war in a spectacular way, the fact that he can't get any money. Ursula had to throw a bone to the comedian puppet in cargo pants. And this is the bone that she threw him. EU accession talks, which basically means the end of the European Union, the early Christian basilica of Eleusis. So, yeah, the end of Europe once it admits Ukraine and Moldova and Bosnia and Herzegovina and Georgia. Once they get admitted into the EU, it's lights out. It's game over for the European Union. There is no way in the current state that the EU is in, with Germany in recession, a Germany that's a complete mess, a broken Germany. There is no way that they can fund the entry, subsidize the entry of Ukraine, Moldova, Bosnia, and Georgia. It is not going to happen. The best part about Ursula allowing Ukraine into the European Union is she said that, she said this should be my clown world. She said that Ukraine has completed well over 90% of the necessary steps that we set out last year in our reports. Ukraine has completed 90%, well over 90% of the reforms that are needed to enter the European Union. Oh my God. Let me read you exactly what Ursula said. Kyiv has been deeply reforming the country, she said, even amid the conflict with Moscow. She stated that Ukraine had already carried out well over 90% of the necessary steps for membership set out by the bloc last year. And she said, and I quote, "On this basis, we have recommended today that the Council opens accession negotiations. We also recommend that the Council adopts a negotiating framework once Ukraine has carried out the ongoing reforms." And I think the countries that voted against this, the accession talks, I don't know. I don't think this needs all 27 members to open up the talks. I think it needs all 27 members' approval when the talks are concluded for them to enter. But I think for the accession talks, I'm not sure if it just needs a simple majority or what. But from what I understand, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, and Germany, and maybe one other country, they were like dead set against this. And France didn't weigh in. I think France abstained. So yeah, Germany is against this, not because it doesn't want to see Project Ukraine go on, but and it doesn't want to support Zelensky. Germany absolutely is all in on Project Ukraine. They've destroyed their own country for the comedian in cargo pants, but Germany, even Germany, understands that they can't financially support Ukraine. They just can't do it anymore, and that's exactly what would be needed if you let Ukraine, Moldova, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Georgia into the European Union. It would be Germany and the German citizens who would be subsidizing and paying for these countries. No one else. So Germany, the Netherlands, Finland, the countries mostly in the north, they would be the ones that the north of Europe. They would be the ones that would be flipping the bill for these new countries to enter the European Union. So it would fall on the citizens, the taxpayers of those countries. And I think Germany understands we can't do it. We're tapped out. We are tapped out. But Ursula, she had to move forward with this. 90% of the reforms. You know, Ursula's right. She's right. Actually, I think Ukraine has pretty much completed 100%, because the one thing that's needed in order to enter the European Union is, do you hate Russia? That's it. That's the only question that needs to be answered. Well, maybe two questions. Do you hate Russia, and are you willing to start a conflict with Russia? If you can say yes to those two questions, you're pretty much in the EU. I mean, you're there. if you can say yes to those two questions. And so Ukraine pretty much, I mean, they fulfilled the requirements to enter the European Union. Absolutely. Economic reforms, human rights, legal, democracy, EU values. There's none of that stuff, man. Fiscal reforms, man. Are you telling me that the Ukraine economy is ready to join the European Union, or Moldova? Moldova is ready to join the European Union? Peter Szijjártó, the foreign minister of Hungary, one of the only sane people in the European Union, Hungary, Orbán, Szijjártó, he was like, "You got to be kidding me." That's what Szijjártó was saying. He's like, right, well, here's his quote. "Right, there is a war in Ukraine, so we can see that neither media freedom nor freedom of speech is enforced. We can see that elections are not held either." He said it's absurd for Brussels to open up accession talks with Ukraine. He said it's absurd. Yeah, it's laughable. I mean, I'm sure Szijjártó and Orbán at this point in time, I'm sure they're just sitting back in Budapest, and they just have to be laughing at this point in time. And hopefully they're planning for the collapse of the European Union, because that's a definite. So hopefully they're planning out their next steps over the next 3, 4, 5 years for the eventual collapse of the European Union. And it's fitting that Ursula is the one that's going to usher in this collapse. Anyway, what are the next countries to join the European Union? Maybe, I don't know, trying to think, what other countries can join the EU? The EU is becoming like Eurovision, isn't it? You know, like Eurovision is you have Georgia, Armenia, you have Azerbaijan. Who else is in Eurovision? Israel. You have all of these countries. Australia's in Eurovision. The EU is just resembling Eurovision at this point in time. Oh boy. I think Trudeau is going to apply to join. Hey, Ursula, can we join the European Union? I hate Russia too. Please, let me join. Trudeau, you idiot. Canada's not even close to the European continent. Oh boy. So let's talk about the New York Times article. Let's get back to some more serious news. The New York Times article, they are reporting about women being recruited into the Ukraine military. Now remember, according to Zelensky, Ukraine is inflicting 5x the damage on Russia. Okay, that is Zelensky's narrative. So the New York Times, they come out with an article with the title, "If Not Me, Who?" As Ukraine seeks troops, women prepare for the call. As Ukraine seeks troops, women prepare for the call. That is the title of the New York Times article. Let's see, let me read you some parts of this New York Times article, which basically admits, this article is basically an admission that Ukraine is indeed running out of men. It's running out of men. And notice the age, some of the ages of these women that are interviewed in this article. Notice how old they are, just so you get an idea as to how desperate and how catastrophic the situation currently is. "Nobody wants to fight in the trenches," said Olga Bakhmatova, 46, a psychologist who attended the training. "It's unnatural to want it, but she felt it was inevitable that more women would wind up fighting, and she wanted to be prepared. Now I understand. If not me, who?" she said. The article then goes on to say, with so much hinging on refilling the ranks, efforts are underway to draw draw more Ukrainian women into the army. Volunteer groups offering all-female training, like the one near Kyiv, are supporting the effort. About 43,000 women now serve in the Ukrainian military, according to the Ministry of Defense, an increase of about 40% since 2001. The year before Russia's full-scale invasion, the proportional increase is less than the male fighting force, which has more than tripled over the same period. The male fighting force has more than tripled over the same period. Refill the ranks. Notice the words they're using. Recruiting women to refill. Well, why do you need to refill the ranks with women? The Ukrainian army's outreach to women is a step toward equality. Get this, is a step toward equality, to be sure, but one that also reflects the tremendous toll the war has exacted. Women are able to fight on an equal footing with men and at the same time remain feminine, said Daria Trebuk, the founder of the non-governmental group Ukrainian Valkyria that is leading the training sessions. The gender of a warrior makes no difference. So this idea, if you want my opinion, this idea to recruit women, to get women to go to the front lines to fight, is a collective West idea. Collective West idea all the way. And they're telling Zelensky, keep fighting. We don't care. Keep fighting. What did Tim Scott say? Degrade Russia. Degrade Russia, he said, with the blood of Ukraine. That's what Tim Scott said, not me. I'm not saying that. That's Tim Scott. If it means women, women. Yeah, that's what the US is telling Ukraine. That's what they're telling Zelensky. That's why you have a non-government organization, the Valkyria, the Ukrainian Valkyria, a non-governmental group. I wonder who's funding this non-governmental group. Could it be USAID? just saying, I don't know. And you know that when you hear a quote like, the gender of a warrior makes no difference, that's not a Ukrainian talking point. That's not something that someone from Ukraine would say. No chance. Anyway, it's sad. Degrade Russia by completely destroying Ukraine. So let's shift gears a bit. So the US, they attacked Syria again yesterday. They allegedly hit facilities in Syria. They claim, the US claims these facilities were from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard because this group, these Iranian soldiers, according to the United States, they hit the US military base yesterday, and so the US military then launched airstrikes inside of Syria on this facility, which they claim is being used by Iran to launch attacks against the United States. And this is what the Pentagon said, and I quote, "The United States is fully prepared to take further necessary measures to protect our people and our facilities," the Pentagon said. "We urge against any escalation. We urge against any escalation." The U.S. is illegally occupying Syria, and they're the ones that are urging against escalation. You want to stop the escalation, Pentagon? Just leave Syria, man. What are you doing there with 500 or 1,000? I don't even know how many troops. I think like 1,000 troops, maybe 2,000, I'm not sure. But they're there to steal Syria's oil, and they're there to act as a tripwire. Those troops have been left in Syria for all of these years exactly for this purpose. The neocons, they kept them in Syria even after Trump ordered those troops to come home. The Pentagon, they disobeyed a direct order from the President of the United States, and they laughed about it, and they openly admit it now. They openly admit that they disobeyed an order from the Commander-in-Chief. and which shows you who's really running the show. Vivek Ramaswamy, you're 100% spot on in everything you said last night at the debates. But yeah, they disobeyed Trump's order. They kept those troops in there, number one, to steal the resources. But even more importantly, I think, more than the resources, more than the oil, they kept those troops there to act as a tripwire, because they knew sometime in the future, the tripwire will be sprung. They knew it. The neocons knew this. So that's why they keep those troops there. Anyway, that's the statement from the Pentagon. And let's do one quick update, because there is a lot of news going on in the world. A lot of business is being done. A lot of deals are being made. And we even have some positive rapprochement coming out of Australia and China. So Australia and China, they've, over the past few years, actually I would say since 2019, 2020, I think during the tenure of Morrison, Australia's relations with China, which is a very important trading partner. I mean, they pretty much share the same region. Their relationship has been strained, to say the least, and it's been quite a difficult relationship over the past 3-4 years. But it looks like we're going to get some rapprochement, because Albanese, the current leader of Australia, he was in Beijing. I believe he traveled to Beijing a couple of days ago, and he met with Xi and with the Chinese officials. And this was a trip to get the trade between Australia and China back on track, and that's exactly what it looks like he has accomplished. And this is a good development. A bad development if you're the Biden White House. Good development if you're Australia. Good development if you're China. It means that instead of marching towards war in the region, Taiwan and China, that's going to be the next target after Ukraine and everything that's going on now in the Middle East. Iran, it was going to be Taiwan, right? That was going to be the third war that the Biden White House and the neocons were going to start. Well, Australia took a very important move against escalation with China. A very important move. I think they even freed up visa and visa travel and a whole bunch of business deals. And this is a good development. Even the Washington Post is reporting on this, and they're saying that Australia's leader calls for free and unimpeded trade to resume with China after ties deteriorated. That's what the Washington Post is reporting. And the New York Times, they are sounding the alarm bells because of this move. They put out an article, Ukraine, Israel, can America support two wars and still handle China? To U.S. allies in Asia, the sudden focus on Gaza risks progress on America's long-delayed pivot to the Indo-Pacific region. In other words, what the New York Times is saying is, look, you guys promised us a war with China, and now we have these developments between Australia and China, this rapprochement. We have the United States distracted with Project Ukraine, distracted with what is going on in the Middle East, and the New York Times is saying, what about Asia? What about China? What about the Pacific? Let's not forget about war with China. Let's not forget about escalation with China. That is what the New York Times is saying in this article. And Anthony Blinken, he was quoted in this article as saying that the United States has not forgotten about China and the dangers that China imposes to the United States. That poses the dangers that China poses to the United States. And Blinken said the classic line. I love this line. But he actually tweaked it a bit. He changed it up a bit. Blinken said, "Do not worry. We're still focused on escalation with China." But he said, "We can absolutely run and chew gum at the same time." We can run and chew gum at the same time. Usually it's we can walk and chew gum at the same time. U.S. politicians love that line. They absolutely love that line. They love it. I think they go through a class, which actually makes them internalize that line, memorize it. take it really, really to heart. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Well, Blinken, being the very clever politician, clever bureaucrat that he is, he said we can run and chew gum at the same time. So yeah, that is what the New York Times is reporting. Good news as far as de-escalation in Asia, but the New York Times, they're basically saying, not so fast, Australia, not so fast, China. We need to get the Biden White House refocused on Project Taiwan. So that is the latest there. And let's do a clown world. And in this clown world, we go back to Kyiv and we go back to Zelensky. And things have gotten really, really bad for Ukraine and for Zelensky when the US politician, the Biden White House official that flies to Kyiv to meet with Zelensky is Pete Buttigieg. that's really, really bad for Ukraine and for Zelensky. Things are going really bad when they send the transportation secretary to meet with Zelensky. Oh boy. So yeah, Zelensky met with Pete Buttigieg. That's who the Biden White House sent over to Kyiv. And who knows what information Pete Buttigieg is carrying around with him. As I've said in many videos, Pete Buttigieg and all these officials that go to Kyiv, they're just the cover. They're just acting as cover. They travel with a whole bunch of other people, spooks and deep state operatives, and they bring all kinds of information with them and orders with them. And that's the real purpose of having all of these EU and US officials constantly traveling to Kyiv. It's the people that are traveling with them that's the important part of their trips. But that must have been pretty funny for Zelensky to greet Buttigieg. I can see like Podolyak, Zelensky's chief of staff, going, Mr. President, Mr. Peter Buttigieg is here to see you. I can see Zelensky looking at Podolyak and saying, what is this Buttigieg? What is this thing? No, Mr. President, it's a person, transport secretary for the United States of America. He ran to actually be president of the United States of America. His name is Peter Buttigieg. Oh, okay. Okay, I will meet with this Peter Buttigieg. Buttigieg, Mr. President. Buttigieg. Whatever. Okay, bring him to me. Podolyak, does he have money with him? All right, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, Rockfin, Telegram, and on Twitter, X, and go to the Duran shop. 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. And what else? Drop me a like if you like this video. Subscribe to this channel if you want to subscribe to this channel. And what else? I think that's it. Take care.